This extended edition of What is the Age of the Ring mod is an expanded introduction to more adequately answer what the mod is than the original video. While that video does its job well enough to help folks understand what it is, it didn't go into any detail on a whole host of features I have always thought were the most important aspects of the mod and which make it so revolutionary, aspects I cut out of the original video for the sake of brevity. Given the nature of the world the developers have expanded upon, storytelling and authenticity to the source material are critical, so that is one feature of this extended edition I explore. Others include how the mod and its developers are seriously devoted to competitive play, but biggest of all are details on the mod's all-new factions, as well as the overhauled pre-existing factions from the vanilla game Rise of the Witch King. So this series will have many more comparisons between that classic game and the Age of the Ring overhaul, to help players who have only played the vanilla games to understand that much more what this mod offers. For more details on other aspects of the mod, like the overhauled attribute modifier system and War of the Ring mode, I have 2 full series on my channel to satisfy your curiosity. Well worth the time for any BFME aficionado. You'll also see references from time to time to various series I've done. If you're someone who loves getting into the weeds on the differences between the vanilla games and this mod, then these series are for you. Before jumping into this video though, I want to take a moment to just say thank you to everyone who has shown so much enthusiasm for the original video. For a small-time BFME channel like mine that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, the appreciation cannot be expressed enough. So thank you. I hope you enjoy this series. As the summary states on their official ModDB page, this mod has 11 unique factions full of new heroes, spells, and abilities, hundreds of new maps, a brand new campaign, a thoroughly reworked and expanded War of the Ring mode, and much more. Age of the Ring offers the most diverse, engaging, and competitively balanced BFME experience ever made. This extended video will endeavor to unpack this. The Age of the Ring is a total overhaul mod for the classic RTS game Rise of the Witch King. This mod is unlike any other out there for the BFME games. Having first won 6th place of the top 10 mods of the year for the ModDB Awards in 2017, and then number 1 mod in 2020 and Best Multiplayer Award in 2023, with several honorable mentions over the years, the Age of the Ring has been a very bright spot in the BFME world for many years, and honestly, it's no wonder. From making their own professional-looking promo material like this trailer, to getting John Cullen, actor who played Owen in the Hobbit films, to give his own bit of support.
What's that? I can't hear you. Just get out and vote. Age of the Ring.
The Age of the Ring team have long been leading the way in the community to produce top quality content head and shoulders above the rest. Currently in development by a team of only 10 people, though it had exceeded this in the past, over the course of some 8 years, it is incredibly well polished and professional, feeling like it was made by a AAA studio, from its simple 2D art right up to the overhaul of the old 3D graphics and creation of their own original 3D animations. This feels like the official sequel to BFME 2 we never got. Many maps have been completely redone to be more film accurate, with an eye to detail rivaled only by Weta itself, while many more are original expansions to the established lore of Middle-earth, taking Tolkien's Legendarium into the hitherto unexplored regions of the East and the South with their own original stories of the lands and peoples of the Easterlings and Southrons, all included in their very own version of the Middle-earth map. This is not something done by any other BFME mod out there. All of this lends a high degree of authenticity to this take on Middle-earth. As part of the diverse and engaging aspect of the mod, storytelling is incredibly important. And not just the Easterlings and Southrons have their own original stories, but various parts of other well-established factions, like Isengard and a whole new branch of units in the Dunlendings. All of their original stories can be found in the AOTR canon section of their wiki page for ease of reference, and each of their units and heroes has a short summary of their story at the top of their page, as well as in-game. And of course, you can find more in the map descriptions as well. To give an example of a bigger story they're telling in AOTR, perhaps my personal favorite story of theirs in general is that of the faction of Haradwaith, and specifically its faction leader, the Golden King. A shadowy figure, he ruled the various peoples of the south from the ruined desert city of Abra Khan, a name of dread from another age long since lost to time, until Sauron began to regain his strength in the Third Age. The Golden King then took up his rule of fear once more to guide Sauron's policies of war directly, as only he could, using various war chiefs and rulers' animosity towards Gondor to fuel the fires of war, such as your heroes Suladan, Karan Lanbar, and Black Númenórean rulers Baruthiel and the brothers Casimir and Burodapan, who ruled from the infamous city of Umbar, home of the feared Corsairs, a blight upon Gondor for millennia. Baruthiel was the concubine to both the brothers Casimir and Burodapan, bearing great influence over both and consequently holding great power over Umbar. Living up to her namesake after one of Gondor's nefarious queens, she also employed the unorthodox means of cats to spy on her enemies, but who was only a pawn used by dark forces in service to the Shadow. As for Casimir and Burodapan, these brothers' animosity towards Gondor was matched by that which they harbored towards one another as co-heirs of their father, the former Lord of Umbar. Yet the promise of the spoils of a destroyed Gondor united them, and the lure of taking vengeance upon Aragorn himself, who under the alias of Thorongil killed their father and did great harm to their fleets in decades past in his service to Denethor's father, Ecthelion. Thus, under his banner did Casimir lead the might of the Black Númenórean lords themselves, bitterest enemies of Gondor who harbored a deep, abiding hatred towards its people for generations, while Burodapan led the Corsairs to ravage the coasts with the aim to sail up the great river as the last unstoppable armada which would spell certain doom for Minas Tirith. It is this great force which Aragorn and the Great Company overcame at the great port city of Pelargir with the aid of the Oathbreakers. Directly under the Golden King was his advisor, J.R.R, who controlled a priestly sect which worshipped Sauron, who to them was known as Ziggur. These cultists were led to worship through human sacrifice in an effort to call forth the power of Sauron's own defeated master Melkor from the void into which he was cast by the Valar so long ago. But J.R.R's chief enforcers to ensure obedience amongst the adversaries of the Golden King were of a mysterious order of assassins known as the Hasharan Blades, founded by J.R.R himself, removing strategic enemies without a trace. Under J.R.R's fearful auspices and his offer of great power, he united the otherwise disparate tribes who had long warred against Gondor as much as against themselves, ranging from the debatable southern stretch known as Horondor to the further south and to more mysterious lands and peoples. It is from them that Suladan hails, known as the Serpent Lord, a great and noble but misguided leader who went on to play a part in the Battle of the Pelennor Fields under the banner of the Black Serpent. Amongst these lands and further south into the wide deserts, a peaceful people of simple nomads can be found, known as the Amazir, a people known for their hospitality to strangers and trading stories along the way. There were also traders with caravans selling wares from distant lands in the markets of the south. These lucrative traders at the many bazaars and markets of the south helped to fill the coffers of the Haradrim for the war on Gondor, and places of safe refuge along the way. Amidst the deeper reaches of Haradwaith beat the drums of lesser-known peoples to the march of war, such as the Mahudin, who have a close natural connection with the great Mumakil, around which their rites of passage revolve to produce brave warriors, many of whom wanted nothing to do with war, but who, like so many, were forced by the fear of the Dark Lord into it, enforced directly by J.R.R and his terrifying cult of Ziggur. Within the misty jungles of mysterious Far Harad dwell the now subjugated warrior people of the Nafarati, great huntsmen of the dense, dark jungles whose beastmasters could tame even the most ferocious animals, from whom comes your hero, Chief Karan Lanbar, who with many of his kin have been captured and tormented by the sorceries of the Dark Lord to be made into great beast-like men, fed by rage and pain to destroy Gondor. Deeper still within the domain of Haradwaith lay secret cities of great wealth and power, such as the fortress of Haidar, made in ancient times by the great seafaring Númenóreans themselves to protect a great oasis. But in the jungles lay in waiting the Temple of Karna, where dwells a mysterious, unnamed evil guarded by a people just as mysterious and dangerous, the Watchers of Karna, who appeased this evil through even more human sacrifice, and a mysterious horn. It is said the Corsair Lord of Umbar, Borodopan, discovered and explored this mythic lost city of Karna, finding there and taking for himself the strange horn, which possessed great power over his enemies, and which he placed upon the prow of his ship, the Black Dread. To him the Watchers of Karna gave their undying loyalty, serving him in his own aims in the War of the Ring. All of this and more was under the command of the evil Golden King, whose true identity was known to very few, one of the Ringwraiths themselves, a great king of the south seduced by one of the 9 rings of power. Only one of such tremendous power could direct all this during the War of the Ring. This is the overall story being told. Many great details have been skipped over for brevity, such as the personal story of Baruthiel's coming to power by shadowy means, or how the Golden King could transform creatures and men into brutes, but you get the gist. There are some amazing story articles found on their ModDB page if you want even more great detail. ModDB isn't just for gameplay updates after all. And so much of this story just told is reflected in dialogue specifically crafted for this purpose.
You will never find the lost city of Karna.
Along with abilities and powers and how you progress through them. This applies to normal units all the way to heroes and spellbook powers. Naturally, the same principle applies across all the factions. Nearly everything has a story-driven purpose behind it. This attention to detail truly brings Middle-earth to life in ways no other mod I've ever seen can, and makes the game feel like a natural part of that wider world as you're playing and exploring. More to come on this later in the series.
Our order is ancient. Our plight eternal.
So if you're not someone who gets too deep into their original stories,
It serves no one.
you may be a little lost to see something called the Horn of Karna, but at least you'll have a little bit of working knowledge to give you some greater context.
Bring forth the
Guards, secure!
This is all to reflect a philosophy the developers decided on way back in the beginning, as you can see from this old article on ModDB for the first announcement on their mod's name. By the way, while Age of the Ring itself dates back 8 years ago, it actually has its roots even further back in its immediate predecessor, the Horse Lords, a mod which initially aimed to bring back Rohan as a separate faction into ROTWK. Let's look at how the Age of the Ring offers the most diverse, engaging, and competitively balanced BFME experience ever made. As for the mod's content itself, like many other mods, AOTR also expands on the vanilla game's roster of factions, in this case expanding from the 7 of ROTWK to 11. What makes this expansion of the factions stand out from virtually every other mod, though, is these have all been and continue to be thoroughly playtested, not just by the devs, but also by BFME pros behind the scenes and in many tournaments alike, with more on the way. So the roster of factions doesn't consist of inconsequential small little fun changes here and there to pre-existing factions like many other mods do, with no thought to balance or serious play. For years, all the way to the present, the developers and the community have hosted many tournaments to maintain tight balance, and the developers have consistently written articles previewing upcoming balance changes based on these findings. You can find years worth of these all the way back to the very beginning of the mod over on ModDB. These include fun details such as how factions, units, spellbooks, abilities, heroes, etc. have been changed, added, or removed, and more. Makes for incredible reading, honestly, to see the evolution of this mod in tremendous detail. And within the past few months, they have upped the ante and created the Age of the Ring League, with the developers collecting scores of data and releasing it directly to the public. The league counted 91 players on launch and over 800 games played, and it included players of all skill levels. Age of the Ring has overhauled pre-existing mechanics that have always been around, such as the attribute modifier system of buffs, leaderships, spells, and debuffs, to be streamlined and far less convoluted. No longer are players limited to Vanilla's clunky and outdated system of one buff, one leadership, one debuff, and typically only one spell stacking. Now all such attribute modifiers stack without limit, including rare ones such as speed, trample, and poison, freeing players up considerably in terms of creativity and team play dynamics for some incredibly potent combos. And not just units are affected by this, but also heroic units, heroes, and even siege weapons and structures. Nothing is off limits in AOTR. And while AOTR may not be the only mod to overhaul this system, it is one of the few in which it makes the most difference for competitive gameplay. And single player or especially co-op skirmish games alike. The full list of attribute modifiers overhauled and how all unit types are now affected can be found in my playlist. This includes unit experience, structure armor buffing and debuffing, siege damage and siege range, archer range, unit speed, magic and elemental protection, stacking sources of healing even, and stacking buffs and debuffs on monsters, heroes, heroic units, and more. There is an artificial cap imposed on attribute modifiers in vanilla so that all leaderships, buffs, spells, and debuffs have lower values than in AOTR to accommodate this. With this limit removed in Age of the Ring, now you see a more diverse range of these modifiers. So in vanilla, all leaderships are standardized and thus are the same, and the same goes with buffs. And you can't stack more than one leadership, buff, or debuff even in multiplayer games. This drastically reduces creativity and strategic options in vanilla, whereas AOTR's overhaul opens up countless ideas and opportunities, and nowhere more so than in multiplayer. And as a side note, heroes no longer have CP costs in Age of the Ring. This keeps the game more flexible, interesting, and less bogged down, freeing up your creativity and strategies and bringing your Lord of the Rings fantasies to life. Now let's start to look at the 11 unique factions full of new heroes, spells, and abilities. Each faction, even expanded versions of those which have always been there, like Isengard or Gondor, have been meticulously researched. Units, heroes, powers, and abilities all specifically created to cater as best as possible to each faction's strengths and weaknesses to maintain accuracy to the source material and the uniqueness of each faction in terms of gameplay, especially with a mind to how they all fit together as a whole. In other words, they take balance seriously while keeping it fun. As you've seen by now, spellbook powers in the Age of the Ring are in many ways more subtle and unique than in vanilla. In ROTWK, many powers can even feel redundant and uninspired. For example, dwarves have the Men of Dale as a unit already, but they have them as a power too. Same with the Men of the West and their Rohirrim and Rangers. And why do the dwarves get hobbit allies as well as men when the hobbits had nothing to do with the dwarves outside of Bilbo Baggins anyways? Powers often lack a consistency of the theme or at least story nature of the factions. And other powers that are repeated across factions reflect the sense of redundancy, even when certain faction spellbooks can feel quite unique to those factions and inspired, such as Isengard. Whereas with AOTR, there is complementarity in the powers, by which you can, say, summon powerful units from other factions in addition to unique ones explored earlier in this video, instead of the same old units already there for your own faction. And there are other powers appropriate only to the faction in question. A great example is a giant trebuchet for Gondor with a massive amount of splash damage and knockback. Or the all too appropriate power with Rohan to permanently transform your infantry into cavalry. Neither one of these powers thematically belongs with the other faction, and so it goes with the other factions of the game, so you won't find anything that doesn't belong with the factions or feel out of place. Even weather powers have a unique twist with each faction in AOTR. Most have something a little extra, such as faster ability cooldowns. Land buffs and weather powers are always the same for all good factions in vanilla, for instance, but in AOTR they are unique for the various factions which have them.
Cast them back into the earth! Don't let them through!
And the same with land buffs. Land buffs will typically have a special bonus unique to the factions, like the Athelian Rangers for Gondor, which actually protect that area,
Keep a lookout!
or with Dol Guldur, which produces spiders to protect it.
Don't get lost!
Virtually the only powers which remain consistent across the factions in AOTR are the early game 5 PP powers, which have always been important to start a game off just right even back in vanilla, but even there are some interesting twists for certain factions in AOTR. As for nukes being replaced, each faction's Fortress top tier expansion is also now typically unique to each faction. Gone are the days of the long string of nukes flying across the map from 4 of vanilla's 7 factions' fortresses, obliterating armies at the push of a button. Now, there are more subtle but still powerful fortress upgrades like AOTR's Wizard's Tower that reflects Saruman's will guiding a specific part of the army, providing permanent buffs to an already sizable modifier stack. Or Mordor's Morgul Spire, which is the beacon to push all tier orc units map-wide into a powerful temporary buff for a strategic attack or to have your army hold out that much longer. Getting rid of a ton of vanilla's nukes in this kind of way helps to maintain a better sense of flow and progression in the game while still feeling fun, powerful, and well-earned, but above all, authentic to Middle-earth. They've also expanded on the kinds of units available. In vanilla ROTWK there are Tier 1 and Tier 2 units, heroic units, and heroes. In AOTR, there are now Tier 3 or elite units and another new type, semi-heroic units, which are essentially a subclass of heroic unit, but which can be affected by your typical buffs and leaderships, unlike heroic units, but which cannot reach level 10. While the game itself may not offer such a class description for these 2 new types of units, the official AOTR wiki page will fill you in, an invaluable reference for this behemoth of a game. Maintained not just by the devs but by the greater AOTR community, it is a truly indispensable resource. It includes virtually all heroes and units from every faction of the game, and includes strategic tips and guides along the way, with more being updated and added with each new change. It's not always immediate as it's volunteer-based, but it's pretty consistent regardless. None of this compromises on nor neglects the casual player who loves only the single-player or co-op experience. If you want to know details, check out the original video for all the great references to the overhauled AI, normal maps, War of the Ring mode, and all new fortress maps, as well as all new single-player campaigns, overhauled vanilla campaigns, alternate factions, overhauled ring heroes, and other controversial features, and more. Basically all the things nobody in competitive games ever uses. I say this because many mods will focus on just competitive play to the detriment of the casual player, leaving many to feel like mods are not for them. So if you're worried about this mod catering to just the guy who wants to climb the ladders, have no fear. Age of the Ring accommodates all audiences to make the entire game overhauled for all player types, whether you're into the competitive crowd or the casual gamer. Well, this about wraps things up for this video. In the next episode, I'll begin to expand on the 11 unique factions and their spells and abilities, starting with Gondor. In the meantime, if you haven't already, why not download this amazing mod? It's fast, free, and easy. Download link is in the description, and I have a great installation guide on my channel here.